Hey guys, Michael here. In this preview clip for our patron-exclusive episode on Nope, we talk about our initial thoughts on the film and begin to break down what worked for us and what didn't. To listen to the full episode, head to the Beyond the Screenplay Patreon. The link is in the show notes. Hope you enjoy this preview of our episode on Nope. Hello, patrons, and welcome to this patron-exclusive episode of Beyond the Screenplay. Today, we are talking about Nope, the 2022 film written and directed by Jordan Peele. I'm joined, of course, by the Beyond the Screenplay team, Trisha Rand.
Hello, everyone.
Brian Bittner.
Yep.
And Alex Calleros. Nice.
Hi.
I didn't see that one coming. That was good, Brian. Okay, so this is a little bit of a hot take episode. We have all just seen Nope within the last handful of days. I'm going to say at the start that this is one of those movies that wasn't exactly made for me, might not have been my exact cup of tea, might not have loved it, but I'm going to try to stay positive and
constructive. You don't need to stay positive, just constructive.
We're going to hold on to that for as long as possible as we discuss Nope. To that end, Brian, tell me about your experience watching Nope.
I saw it in on a big screen, in a theater with a bunch of people around me. So that was just a really fun experience, especially for the first half when it's the what's going on, and of course that scene was incredible to watch in a theater. The scene that was what you thought the movie was, and then it wasn't. Overall, I thought the cinematography and some of the overall directorial stuff was really fantastic. I just thought it was beautiful to look at. And as a piece of entertainment, I really enjoyed it and I had a fun time with it. And speaking about that scene, I'm talking about the alien kids in this stable, I think is where they are. I think my biggest negative is there's a thing that often happens with a movie or a TV show centered around a big, what is it mystery, which is once it's revealed, then that's it now. That's just, the movie is just this. There's a lot of what's going on and what is it, and it's it's this. So I thought there was a lot of interesting stuff being set up in the first act about the central characters and race and the entertainment industry and animals. There was so many ideas sort of being put forth in the first act. And then around the midpoint, the movie reveals, look, angry space whale. And then the rest of the movie was basically, we have to deal with this angry space whale. And the way the characters engage with that problem and how it all pays off for them is an extension of those things that were set up in the first act. But I think ultimately it just all kind of felt thin to me. There was this promise that they were going to get really in depth into some of these ideas and some of this sort of character stuff. And then it's all kind of got overshadowed by the Hungry Sail Monster. So I almost, it's one of those movies where I'm if you just said we're making a movie about a hungry sail monster, I would have been that movie was awesome. But instead it was what is it? It's about this. And we have this very, strange opening and all the, et cetera. And then it's oh no, but now it's just kind of that this is all this movie is now. That being said, I will consider myself just a fan of Jordan Peele and I'm looking forward to what he is going to do in the future. My friend and I were sitting in the theater for The Northman, and we saw the trailers for Men and Nope beforehand, which of course we had seen before. But I said, Alex Garland and Jordan Peele are kind of in a similar boat right now, which is they both had this critically acclaimed debut. And then they had a follow-up that was really polarizing. Some people loved it, some people didn't. Critically, it was it's fine. And then this is their third movie. This is kind of the this will define your career, right? Men, not terribly well reviewed, regarded. To his credit, Alex Garland said, I'm making one more movie and then I'm going to stop directing movies. So at least he has made that choice. But Nope was certainly more well regarded, but also for me personally, I'm just what? I may never like a Jordan Peele movie as much as Get Out, but I think I will always have a good time watching them and be interested in them and find interesting things to think about and talk about with them. So I think that this has solidified, and for me personally, Jordan Peele is somebody who I will, probably forever just be looking forward to what they're going to do next.
Nice. Cool. All right. Trisha, what were your thoughts?
Yeah. I just want to say that I went and saw this with a really good friend of mine I haven't seen in a while. And so we went on, it was opening weekend because that was just this past weekend. And so we met up early and we sat in the lobby bar at the theater and had a drink and caught up. And then we went into this packed theater, and the theater was really vocally responsive the whole movie, where people were gasping and laughing. And it was a really fun movie theater experience. Everyone was excited to be there, and I was excited to be there, and because Brian had told me that it wasn't that scary, and so I felt emboldened. And
I gave her the spoiler free, here's as much detail as I can give you without.
Honestly, it was the best. It was a safety. He gave me a safety briefing. He's there's a tense 20-minute stretch that's pretty tense. There's a couple of jump scares. Then there's a flashback. There's no gore. There's gore implied. It's pretty disturbing at this point. But then otherwise it's smooth sailing. And I was cool. And so when I was in the tense 20-minute stretch, I was I'm in the tense 20-minute stretch. I feel tense. I know how long it's going to last.
There's an end in sight.
It was great. It was great. And so, and it should go without saying, but as someone who does not like horror movies, I was glad this movie wasn't scarier. But I do want to come back to the point that you made earlier, Brian, about how the mystery is revealed, and how kind of quickly the mystery piece of it is a little bit over, and it becomes, I was actually really reminded of Jaws, where there's this shift at the midpoint where it's and now it's a sea adventure movie, and we're going to go off and hunt the thing. And people have compared it to Jaws also, but sure. I do want to touch on some of the different choices that Jordan Peele made versus some of the classic choices that we saw that you see in movies like Jaws, or Close Encounters is another obvious reference here. And anyway, so I want to come back to all of that. But I will say, I was really turned off to Us. I really, really did not like Us. Not just because the first half of it is very scary, but because the metaphorical parts of the plot line in Us end up becoming the only thing that's happening in the second half of it, and especially in the last third of it. There becomes no story beyond sort of this metaphorical explanation of whatever. And I think there's some similarities here with Nope, where there are these really interesting metaphorical thematic things that are going on. However, unlike Us, I think if you want to watch Nope only as an adventure movie in the second half, kind of, or a sci-fi thriller adventure-y thing. If you want to just watch it on that level in the second half, you still can. Is it a great sci-fi adventure-y thriller in the second half? I don't know, but it functions, unlike Us, which completely ceases to function at a certain point beyond the metaphor that's going on. And so for that reason, I think that's part of the reason people are enjoying Nope more. Critics are enjoying it more. I think audiences are obviously enjoying it more, because it's also a story on a very surface level that you can watch and kind of enjoy. And then if you want to try to dive into some of the symbols and metaphors that Jordan Peele is really trading on here, you can. And you can, that in itself is potentially really interesting. I think there are a number of themes baked in here and so much that he's trying to say. But if you don't want to engage in any of that, you don't have to, and you still might like this movie. And so I think for that reason, overall, it's more successful. And I liked it more, not just because it's not as scary, but because I think it's, it reminds me a lot of Signs and some of these other movies that are kind of in this same vein, where it's I don't know, it's not a masterpiece. It's pretty bumpy, but there's some interesting ideas. And at the end of the day, it is a plot that basically holds together. And, you kind of, it is a movie.
Swing away, Meryl. Swing away.
It is a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a movie, and it's even like an entertaining movie. Like, it's an entertaining movie, and I agree with you about how it's shot, Brian. And like, I'm very curious to hear from people who saw it in IMAX. The two people we're about to hear from about what they think about how it was shot. But just my experience, and with an untrained eye, which I admit that mine is, I thought it looked great, and I thought it was like really fun.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I was just looking at Metacritic, and actually Us has slightly higher reviews, both Metascore and user score for those things. Because I agree with you about Us, but I also remember people being like obsessed with it and thinking it was a masterpiece and like those things.
Interesting.
So I feel like Jordan Peele has sort of somehow found this thing where he makes movies that are you can feel passionately about multiple different directions at the same time, which is pretty fascinating.
I'll be curious to see if that stays true over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Considering it is such a new movie, but very interesting.
Yeah.
There's also probably a little bit of like, I'm sure there's a psychological term for it, but like the polarization that happens once you don't agree with somebody who is very positive or very negative about something, then you sort of put yourself on the other, the sort of like tribalism kind of thing.
They make you pick a side.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No room for measured criticism here, only yelling.
The Discord should talk about The Last Jedi some more. But so
You sadist.
on the IMAX side of things, it's interesting that people are comparing it to Jaws, because I was having that thought while watching it, but partially because the theater we were in played a trailer for Jaws in it, because Jaws is coming back to IMAX. And so there's like an IMAX trailer for Jaws.
I do want to go see Jaws in IMAX though.
Yeah, so that could be pretty fun. So so I saw it in IMAX with Alex. Alex, what was your takeaway with Nope?
Yeah, where to start? Because there's like the IMAX thing. There's all the things Brian and Trisha talked about. I'll just start with the IMAX thing really quick. So I work in post-production. I know too much. I see every flaw and every possible thing that has to do with projection or video compression. And so they shot big portions of this movie with IMAX film cameras. These are the kind of cameras that like Christopher Nolan used for The Dark Knight when we were all blown away by like the opening shots in IMAX. But when Christopher Nolan released The Dark Knight in IMAX, they were using IMAX film projectors, actually projecting IMAX film. They've now converted everything to digital. And for the most part, that's kind of okay because, you know, there's lots of films like I think Top Gun Maverick, you know, was shot for IMAX using digital cameras, but they were at a high enough resolution that you can project them in a crazy, huge IMAX screen that still look great. And recent movies like Top Gun Maverick did look good in IMAX. I didn't notice the kind of issues that I saw watching Nope in IMAX, and it was very strange. Maybe it was because it started on film and was converted, and then they like made it into a digital video file. But these very dark scenes had like digital artifacting on them. You know, you'd have somebody's face where the light falls from like, you know, light to gray to black, and there was like banding artifacts on their face, like you were watching something on YouTube, you know, but like on an IMAX screen. Yikes. And it's like, this was shot on film, and then I guess they converted it to digital, and like whatever codec they used, like didn't handle like light very well. And so they're projecting this huge image on an IMAX screen, once again, shot in IMAX film, apparently, that looks like a YouTube video. And I was just like shocked. I was like, we're in LA. This is like the IMAX screen in LA. And that's how it looks like that. They got to fix that. they can't do that. I mean, they can, because nobody seemed to notice or care except for us.
Except for the two of you who are quietly dying.
Right, exactly. But it just, it was like, wow, I you know, if Christopher Nolan shoots Oppenheimer, which I'm sure he did, on, you know, actual 70 millimeter IMAX film, I'm pretty sure he's going to insist that they roll out the freaking film projectors.
Oh, yes, he will.
And now I'm glad, because I don't trust their digitization process, or whatever they did for this movie did not work.
Well, yeah, clearly just wasn't enough like bit depth for the color stuff, because there's like, you can watch a lot of videos that break down why dark colors are so hard to render in a codec in high fidelity because there's
The Battle of Winterfell made that a pastime for people.
Game of Thrones.
There's just less information in that part of like the codec, but yeah, when you go to see an IMAX screen project, like you expected either film quality or like 10-bit HDR where you have all of those colors to use instead of just like, I'm watching a dark scene and I guess it's shot on IMAX and there are 3 colors that are being used to render this person's face. It was very upsetting.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is completely beside anything else about the movie.
I mean, it clearly affected your experience.
Yeah,
though.
no, but it was distracting, and it was just kind of like a wake up call of just wow, like there's a problem here with the way we're projecting movies. If this is like what passes for theater projection, because my home TV watching something in 4K HDR wouldn't have that problem. And that's like not a good thing if theaters are giving me a lesser experience than my TV at home. An IMAX screen, no less.
Yeah.
Okay. All that aside, that was distracting. That was freaking me out during the movie. There's definitely always social and, there's contagion when watching a film for the first time. There's like the positive social contagion. You talked about Trisha with everybody in the theater loving it and gasping. There's internal contagion of my mind is seeing things I wish I didn't see. There's Michael next to me checking his watch several times throughout the movie, which made me aware of the time that was like passing.
It was for structural reasons, right? He wanted to know.
Yeah.
But I was, even without Michael's like watch checking triggers, I was keenly aware somewhere in the middle of this movie of like, I have no idea where we are in this story. And I think that was one of my problems with the film was I often found myself not really feeling a strong dramatic question or like a really strong driver of the plot that was like moving me into the next scene. We'd kind of just go somewhere. We'd go, now we're at, the Jupiter's landing and he's doing his little show. And I guess this whole time he's been sacrificing horses to the UFO and nobody noticed, or like people have been coming to see UFOs and it hasn't been made like national news. Anyway, there were just a lot of times where I found myself in a scene and I wasn't sure why I was there or like what I was expecting to happen. So then when something else happened, it wasn't like an exciting subversion of expectations or a satisfaction of expectations. It was just, okay, that happened now. And I think once again, going back to my favorite Jordan Peele film, I think everybody's favorite, Get Out, that movie, every scene is loaded, and I come in with expectations and fears and anxieties about what's going on, and there's layers to the comedy and the meaning of everything. And I think, us especially, you talked about Trisha, how by the end of that movie, I felt like it was operating on one level, which was pure metaphor. And this movie, I agree, I enjoyed a lot more, and I found a lot of scenes entertaining and kind of like, just a basic Spielbergian, Jaws sort of sequence way. And that was fun. That was fun to see in the big theater. But then there were other sequences that did feel like, well, this is not part of like a flow of like an entertaining movie. This is a scene plopped here to make me think later, or to present a metaphor. The whole subplot with the chimpanzee, and that kind of just like essentially is killed off along with Jupe at whatever that point in the movie is, when the whole crowd is picked up by the UFO. Basically, it's like later, like it's not a bad thing, I guess, for a movie to encourage me to think about things. And like, I definitely was aware while watching the movie that this is definitely about animals and about Hollywood and animals, and I guess our almost kind of like lack of respect for just like the wildness of nature or animals, and the kind of like harnessing them for entertainment. But I don't know what he was saying about any of that really, because in Get Out there are lots of complex themes going on there, but I don't know, I think like I am with the movie in this laser focused way. And in this movie, I was starting to try to like find my footing with, okay, you know what? We're treating this like a wild animal. We're almost like in Jurassic Park mode here. You got to respect it. You got to like, we're going to capture it on film like wildlife, and you can't push it too far or it's going to eat you. But then there's like an applause line at the end where Keke Palmer is like, like, fuck you don't fuck with the Haywoods. Like it's like, wait, so that's more of like, no, this is just like a monster we're like supposed to be cheering to blow up and like see explode, which is like the mindset I had gone away from, thinking that this was thematically about something else. So that's where I was just felt very adrift by the end of the film, where I feel like it was encouraging me to read it in these more interesting, complex ways, but then giving me like audience signals of like, cheer here, laugh here. Like, this is a movie where you just want to kill the monster. And so, so I walked out of the theater just feeling unsatisfied, because it's like you said, Brian, like, kind of give me one or the other. Like, I would have liked a version of this movie that was subversive, and it turns out, humans are the idiots and nature is going to win in the end. Kind of Jurassic Park, life finds a way. I don't know, whatever he's saying about animals, there could have been an interesting movie there. But then when you end with a victorious explosion and like kind of Quentin Tarantino cowboy shot of OJ, like, I don't know what that means. What was it all for? So it's my long rambly ramble about Nope is where I'm at with it. Michael.
Yeah, well, so I think we're probably past the time of the patron preview section. So now I can really say how I feel.
Wow.
Just let loose, Michael. Patron exclusive.
I hope you guys enjoyed this preview clip of our episode on Nope. To listen to the full episode and continue the conversation, head over to the Beyond the Screenplay Patreon. The link is in the show notes.